Someone came over today. I'm not too much of a writer, but this happened to me yesterday. So I hear my doorbell ring. It's this cloudy afternoon. The house isn't very well lit. That's what I wake up to. My parents and brother are off at work, and I realize I'm responsible for answering the door at this moment. So I walk out of my room to the door and open it. There's this guy standing there. He's wearing a suit, all black. I can't quite accurately remember anything about his face, which is a little odd since I'm usually good with faces. But there was something about this black attire, and right up to his shiny black tie. It's rather hot this time of year, and no sane person would walk around dressed like that. Aren't you going to let me in? He smiled. It was a normal smile, like a smile you'd put on to greet someone you knew. And the sleep was wearing off. My brain was working overtime to recognize this man. I'd opened the inside door, but the outer one with this grill was still latched shut. Stop fooling around! His smile was turning into a chuckle. And there I stood, wondering what this man's play was. I've read so many stories about door-to-door scammers and thieves who act as if they're family, friends, or distant relatives in an empty house. And I really do pride myself on my street smart. Look, man, I don't know who you are. Now he looked confused. What? Well, I began closing the inside door. He quickly took out his phone and began frantically swiping at it. And as I humored him for something like 10 seconds, he put the phone up to my face. It was a photo of me and him, smiles wide, and standing side by side outside my college main building. It looked like it was taken not more than a week before. I was utterly confused at this point and immediately shut the door at his face. I even felt him put his hand in to block the door, but I managed to shut it. I was trying to remember if I'd taken photos with a random stranger recently and drew an absolute blank. He was gone some 10 minutes later. When I looked through the peephole, it was late, and I'd almost completely forgotten about this strange occurrence when the bell rang again. My mother usually gets home at this time, so I opened to find her there. But behind her stood this man, as he was, but with a smile. There was something terribly wrong with his smile. As she entered, I asked her who the guy was and told her what had happened earlier. I was yelled at for joking around with my uncle and told about how he had to head to meet my mother at her workplace instead of waiting at home. I have no uncles. Both of my parents are single children. At this point, I was mind-fucked. But I went with it because I didn't want a confrontation with my mother. My father soon came home and embraced the man in a hug when he saw him. There was something absolutely strange about the way my parents were behaving with this guy. It was like they were in some sort of trance. We ate dinner and he asked me about my life. It was crazy how much he knew about me, even naming some of my friends and asking about their lives. He started telling me about how he often helped my parents out with babysitting, showing me photos of him and me as a baby. He always had his eyes strictly focused on me in the photographs, like he was concentrating on something. Midway through dinner, I asked to be excused and went to my room to get away from what was creeping the hell out of me. I lay down in my room and started trying to make sense of what was happening, especially why my parents were trying to make this random guy feel so welcome and how he knew so much about me while I hadn't ever seen him. There was a knock on my door, and it was him. He said that my mother had asked him to sleep over in my room because my brother was coming back late and she didn't want him bothered when he got back. There was 100 reasons in my head for why some weird stranger shouldn't be near me when I'm asleep, but all I could choke out in the end was, alright. He slept on the other side of my room on a mattress. I had him in the corner of my eye until around 2-ish. I could swear he had his eyes open, staring at me all night. He suddenly said, "Let's play hide and seek like the old days." With a slight chuckle, he crept out of the room and shut the door behind him. I was positively freaked out and decided not to follow him. I lay in my bed and waited for what seemed like a few minutes until I heard his voice from the outside. "Come find me." I was really scared and just lay there while he called out to me to go find him. This started as a coaxing whisper and went to him loudly, shouting out to me, "Come get me. I'm hidden. Get out of that room and come find me. I'm waiting." This went on for somewhere around 2 hours, and I just lay there with my sheets over my head. The voice began to get more frantic and louder as time went on. I couldn't believe my parents or the neighbors hadn't intervened until now. It suddenly stopped around 4:30ish, and it was dead silence after. I didn't dare move out of the room. I waited till my parents woke up the next morning and ran to them to ask them if they had heard anything last night. They said they hadn't. They even denied having let a man sleep over in my room. They denied having let anyone in for dinner last night. I have no idea what the fuck is going on at this point, and decided to talk to my brother about what happened. He says he got home at night. He passed by my room around 3-ish, and it was all silent. I have no strong memory of the guy's face, like it was erased from my mind somehow. I remember his clothing, but nothing of his facial features or how he looked. Now I'm freaking out, because I keep having this feeling that this guy is still in the house. What the fuck do I do?